Venus Williams to return to Australian Open after 5 years, receives wildcard for first Grand Slam of 2026. Venus Williams will be returning to the main draw at the Australian Open 2026 after 5 years. The American legend received the 8th and final women's wildcard on Friday, hence, the 45-year-old will make her first appearance at Melbourne Park since 2021. This will also be her first time competing outside the United States since 2023. According to the organizers of the first Grand Slam of 2026, Williams will be preparing for the Australian Open at the Hobart International, where she will be joining fellow champions Barbara Krejcikova and Emma Raducanu. The Australian Open has also confirmed that Williams will enter a tournament in Hobart, Australia, a week later, just before play begins at Melbourne Park for the Australian Open. Venus Williams first appeared at the Australian Open 28 years ago in 1998, where she defeated her younger sister Serena in the second round before eventually losing in the quarterfinals to fellow American Lindsay Davenport. She has finished as the runner-up in the women's singles twice at the Australian Open, losing to her sister Serena in the finals on both occasions in 2003 and 2017. "I'm excited to be back in Australia and looking forward to competing during the Australian summer," Williams said, according to the official Australian Open website. "I've had so many incredible memories there, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to return to a place that has meant so much to my career," she added. Williams' record. With her appearance in the upcoming Australian Open, Venus Williams is all set to become the oldest woman to compete in the main draw of the Grand Slam, surpassing the previous record held by Japan's Kimiko Date, who was 44 when she lost in the first round of the 2015 Australian Open. Venus Williams is a 5-time Wimbledon champion and 2-time US Open winner, and her appearance will add more star power to the Australian Open. In late December, 7-time Grand Slam winner Williams married Danish-born model and actor Andrea Preddy in Palm Beach, Florida. In November 2025, Venus Williams had announced that she would be playing in Auckland, New Zealand, where she also received a wild card 2 weeks before the Australian Open. Venus Rising, a Melbourne morning 5 years in the making. At dawn in Melbourne, the light spills gently across Rod Laver Arena, catching on the hard court like a held breath. The air hums, not with noise yet, but with memory. 5 years have passed since Venus Williams last walked these grounds, 5 years since her stride echoed here, tall and unmistakable. And now, in this imagined January of 2026, tennis does something it has always done best when it believes in itself. It makes room for history to return. The Australian Open announces a wild card, and the word ripples across the sport with the soft force of inevitability. Venus Williams. The first Grand Slam of the year opens its gates, not just to a player, but to an era that refuses to be filed away. Venus does not return because time has been kind. She returns because time has been honest. Her career has never been about ease. From the cracked public courts of Compton to the pristine blue of Melbourne's hard courts, Venus built her game against gravity, social, physical, and historical. She arrived in tennis when the sport was not waiting for her, and she stayed long enough to change its posture. Power became elegance. Strength became grace. Silence became authority. 5 years away from the Australian Open might read like absence on paper, but for Venus, absence has never meant disappearance. She has lived in the margins of the sport, coaching, mentoring, healing, advocating, letting the game breathe without her while never fully letting it go. Tennis, after all, is a language the body remembers even when the world insists on forgetting. The wild card is not charity. It is recognition. It recognizes that Venus Williams is more than rankings and results. She is a living archive of what women's tennis became because she demanded more. Equal prize money did not arrive because it was fashionable. It arrived because Venus spoke when silence was expected. Longevity did not become admirable by accident. It became possible because she modeled it, match after match, year after year, long after others thought the story was done. In 2026, the locker rooms are filled with players who grew up watching her highlights in grainy YouTube clips and polished documentaries. They know her forehand as a weapon and her serve as a declaration. They know her as a pioneer first and a competitor always. Some will share the court with her now, heart racing not because they fear defeat, but because they are standing across from proof. Proof that excellence is not linear. Proof that age is not an ending but a texture. Proof that returning is sometimes braver than arriving. When Venus steps onto the court, the applause does not explode, it rises. It rises like respect does, slow and full, layered with gratitude. She stands tall, as she always has, her presence a reminder that the game once learned how to stretch itself to fit her ambition. She does not promise victory. Venus has never needed to promise anything. Her game has always been an argument, not an apology. Each swing of the racket carries years. Injury, recovery, loss, reinvention. Each point is a conversation between who she was and who she has chosen to remain. Across the net, youth waits. It always does. But Venus has faced youth before, and she knows something it does not yet understand. Tennis is not won by speed alone. It is won by patience, by timing, by the ability to stay present when the moment begs you to rush. The Australian Open crowd watches not just for the scoreline, but for the subtleties, the way she moves between points, the calm reset before a serve, the stillness that comes from having nothing left to prove. In a sport obsessed with what's next, Venus offers what's enduring. This return is not about reclaiming a throne. It is about reminding the kingdom who helped build the walls. 5 years ago, when she last played here, the world was different. Tennis was different. Venus was different. And yet, here she is, not unchanged, but unbroken. The Wildcard does not rewrite her legacy. It adds a final, luminous chapter that reads less like a comeback and more like a continuation. Because Venus Williams never truly left the game. She simply allowed it time to catch up. As the Melbourne sun climbs higher, casting sharp shadows across the court, Venus readies herself for the next point. The racket rests easily in her hand. The moment does not rush her. It never has. And somewhere between the baseline and the horizon, tennis remembers itself.